Good evening. I'm Nisa Petrilli.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
And I'm Sean Roman.
And this is the On the Sports Lines NBA Draft Special. The champion has been crowned, but the NBA has one final piece of business before the offseason begins, and it's happening tonight at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, the draft. Who got the better of the top two picks? Did the teams at 3, 4, and 5 take the right player? Who are the under-the-radar picks? All that, plus a first look at the offseason and a last look at the finals. As always, we want to hear from you, so email us at fanspeak@onthesportslines.com. Send your tweets to @onthesportslines and your posts to facebook.com/onthesportslines. LSU freshman power forward Ben Simmons and Duke freshman small forward Brandon Ingram went 1 and 2 to the Philadelphia 76ers and the Los Angeles Lakers. Both are short on college resumes and long on NBA potential. Jay, who got the better of the top two picks?
It's rare you're going to see a Tar Heel fan say this, but I think the Duke freshman, who was ACC Player of the Year, is going to be ultimately the better pick. He's a very athletic wing, good footwork. He has a 7'3" wingspan, which will help him defend in the passing lanes. He has a great work ethic. He comes in as a good shooter with deep range. He hit 41% from three at Duke. He has a good turnaround jump shot, a good mid-range game. He's very polished in that regard. High basketball IQ, great court awareness, good passer. He can create off the dribble. He also does very well in pick and roll situations. Two parts that are staples of NBA basketball. Here's the negatives, though. He needs to add strength. The kid is barely 200 pounds, and that's with his sneakers on. Needs to improve his ball handling, cut down on his turnovers, and he only hit 68% from the stripe at Duke. He needs to work on that. He's more mature, more versatile scorer, has a better work ethic, can do the one thing that Simmons cannot do as of right now, and that is shoot the basketball. I know the Sixers probably felt they had to take Simmons, but I think when it's all said and done, guys, I think Ingram's going to be the better player.
I have to agree, Jay. I mean, the way I look at Ingram, I almost see him being a combination, if you're talking about old school, maybe a little George Gervin, and new school Durant.
Yeah.
This guy is a terrific shooter. He, as you said, 41% shooting from the floor. He is a leader on the court, and at his age, you can see him turning into a phenomenal player, especially if they provide him with a couple of veteran guys around him. He's a terrific all-around player. And to me, as you said, Ben Simmons flat out cannot shoot.
Not yet.
And he's going to have to learn how to do it if he's going to be worth the #1 pick.
I'm not very high on either of the two top draft picks. I'm especially not high on #1 picks from Duke, who stayed only 1 year. I thought that Jabari Parker really could have benefited from another year.
Well, you and I both agree on that, Sean.
Especially because of strength.
Yeah.
Like you said, with who you picked.
Ingram,
and I think Ingram. I think that he could have definitely, like Parker, benefited from another year under Coach K and been so much more valuable and advanced and pro-ready if he would have had another year. Now, Simmons took another road. He didn't go to one of these elite basketball schools. He went to LSU where he had a family connection. He came, he doesn't remind me of LeBron coming out of high school because of the lack of strength.
Right.
In terms of success, he does remind me of those high school greats winning 3 national championships for his school in Florida. He reminds me somewhat of Kobe Bryant, being wiry, young, full of energy. So I like that aspect in terms of just sheer athleticism, ability to play all over the court. I think that is the defining factor in terms of who I think is the favorable pick for #1. So I would go with Simmons. I mean, 20 points a game. It is a drawback the way he ended his career there, losing to Texas A&M 71-38. Doesn't look great in terms of piloting a team in your only year in sports. But if you think back to his high school days, he could have come out and been #1 just from there.
Who knows? Who knows? We'll see.
Well, the Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, and Minnesota Timberwolves had picks 3, 4, and 5. Did they draft the right player? Time will tell. Our guys will play GM for each team as we play right pick, wrong pick. Jay, did the Celtics make the right pick or the wrong pick with Jaylen Brown?
You know, it's rare that Danny Ainge and I ever agree on anything. There were so many ways Ainge could have gone with this pick. A lot of people were throwing around Kentucky's Jamal Murray, Providence's Chris Dunn. Both guys could have contributed right away. But, you know, Celtics already have 3 solid guards in Isaiah Thomas, Marcus Smart, and Avery Bradley. Isaiah Thomas is an all-star. So I actually agree with Ainge going forward, and I agreed with his pick in Jaylen Brown. Guy's got an NBA-ready body. He's an elite athlete. Rocky freshman year at Cal, but if you go through the tape back in his high school years, better shooter, passer, and defender than we actually saw at Cal. Powerful game, slashes to the rim, finishes well, lives at the free throw line, great motor, never stops moving. Great size for his position, excellent wingspan. He has the potential to be a versatile defender, and he rebounds well. But here's the thing. Shaky freshman season at Cal. Part of it was having to share the ball. He's still trying to figure out who he is. And I got to tell you guys, sometimes, as we know, the NBA is a bad place to try and do that.
Yes.
Exhibit A, Mo Harkless. He needs to improve his jump shot. He's not a consistent three-point shooter. And if you're going to play the 3 in the NBA, you have to have that. Needs to improve his handle, tighten up on his decision-making. He is turnover prone. But again, he's 19 years old. Yep. At the end of the day, guys, it's this. If his game can catch up to his physical tools, he's going to be a difficult handle in the NBA. It's a big if, but this is a bet I think the Celtics feel they can take since they have an established, scoring rotation already. There is an opportunity for him to become a better offensive version of Justice Winslow. We'll see what happens. But I agree with Ainge taking Brown with this pick.
Okay.
Well, Steve, do you think the Suns made the right or wrong pick with Dragan Bender?
You remember last year when the Knicks drafted Porzingis, we all nearly had a collective heart attack.
Except Sean.
Except Sean. I have to give Sean credit because he was the only one of us who thought Porzingis was going to be good. Now, the question with Dragan Bender is he going to be the next Porzingis? He may be, possibly. But first of all, let's remember 2 things. The kid is 18 years old. That's 2 years younger than Porzingis. Doesn't have as much experience.
No.
But if you start looking at what he can do, there are some similarities. He's a terrific shooter. He plays defense fairly well. Plays it a little differently than Porzingis. Porzingis is a better shot blocker and more aggressive rebounder. This kid does it with his length. He's got very long arms. He's quick. So if you look at what he can bring to the table, I think the potential is there. But I think the other reason it's a good pick is the players they might be drafting along with him. There's rumor they may draft Diamond Stone out of Maryland. He's got potential. And this kid, Skal Labissiere, who I'm not sure is all that good, to be honest with you. He's out of Kentucky. He didn't look that good in his freshman year. But collectively, the 3 of them together might make them a pretty respectable team in the long run.
And the Suns have room to let this kid grow.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Sean, did the Timberwolves make the right or wrong pick with Chris Dunn?
They made the right pick. I think this particular pick is symbolic of what a mediocre draft this particular crop is. He's NBA ready. Last year he could have came out and been maybe in somewhere between 10 and 20. So now he got another year of experience that gives him greater strength, makes him more NBA ready, especially on the defensive end. Top crop of point guard picks, excellent size and strength for a point guard coming into the NBA. So. And Providence, years of experience there, playing strongly in the Big East for those 2 years, NCAA, big game experience. I like the pick overall. I don't have any complaints about it.
It's not surprising. No. Tom Thibodeau is now the head coach at Minnesota. What does Thibodeau prize? Defense. And I'll tell you what. So Dunn is his type of guy, and I have a feel I'm going to be interested to see how much longer Ricky Rubio is a Timberwolf now that Chris Dunn is.
Yeah, good question.
Well, every year there are players taken outside the lottery who turn out to be the steals of the draft. The most recent being Spurs forward Kawhi Leonard. Drafted 15th in 2011, he's now a Finals MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and finished 2nd in this year's MVP voting. Steve, what player in this draft has the potential to be the next Kawhi Leonard?
Well, my favorite player in the draft, and I think a lot of guys will agree with me, is Denzel Valentine.
Yeah, I like the guy.
This guy is a tremendous player. First of all, he's one of the few guys that stayed 4 years at Michigan State, and I like guys who stay 4 years, a la Tim Duncan, who's had a phenomenal career. This guy is not only a great ball handler, he's a very good shooter. He plays defense, and he really encourages his teammates to step up and play well. He's got a little Draymond Green in him, and he inspires his teammates.
It's Michigan
to play
State.
better. Yeah, it's Michigan State, and I think there are rumors he'll be drafted anywhere from 14 to 17. I think that's ridiculous. Honestly, I think he should be a top 10 pick because I think the potential for him to lead whatever team he's on is very much there.
Well, I agree with you, Steve, on that, but I'll tell you the reason why he's projected more as a mid to late first round is he's 23, and the NBA is now enamored with younger guys. When did 23 become old?
Yeah, really.
And he's coming off a knee injury, so that also is a little concern for him. So that's why he's projected that way. I'm going with a similar guy, a guy we talked about plenty during our March Madness shows, and that's Malcolm Brogdon, the ACC Player out of the Year out of Virginia. Now, this is a league that's looking, guys, for shooters who can play multiple positions. Brogdon's this type of guy.
Yeah.
Projected as a late first-round pick, fundamentally sound guard, does a little of everything, very high basketball IQ, makes great decisions, tactician on the floor, good shooter. He has developed into a very good three-point shooter,
Yes, he has.
39% by his senior season, tough, physical defender, two-time ACC Defensive Player of the Year, guarded 1 through 4 in college, knows how to use his size and 6'11" wingspan. Here's the negative on him. He's not elite size for his position. He's only 6'5", and he's not an elite athlete. But here's the thing. Virginia, offensively, he knows how to play off screens. Virginia did a lot of that with him. He has an advanced feel for moving without the ball, consistently knock down jump shots out of spot-ups, catch and shoot on the move, stuff you have to do in the NBA as a two-guard. Doesn't have blow-by speed, but he knows how to work off a ball screen, does a good job of using his strength to get where he wants to go. Now, he projects as a shooting guard in the NBA, but his handle and passing are strong enough that I think he's going to be a combo, a little bit of everything. And I think whoever gets him is going to get a guy who can step into their rotation from day one, and if it's the right system, I think he could develop into a lot more.
Once again, a senior, 4 years.
There you go, another 4-year guy.
Gentlemen, I think it's time for me to talk about the Euro.
Not yet.
Not quite
The
yet.
FIBA Euro. I'm going with Sabonis.
Domantas.
Montes.
Now listen to this. The reason why is I don't think there's more of an NBA-ready athlete to fit right into a rotation right now. If you look at this guy's experience, he's been on the national team for Lithuania. He's been on the under-16 team, the under-18, and what I mentioned about the Euro, the FIBA Europe under-18 championship team, the same FIBA Euro under-20 championship team, the Lithuania's men's national basketball team. He has all this tremendous experience, plus 2 years at Gonzaga, where he basically doubled his production over those times of years. I absolutely love that pedigree in terms of being NBA ready.
And he's also got good DNA.
Arvydas
is his father.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see him rebounds and assists, excellent passing ability, and strength. The strength in terms of him and the other players really doesn't compare. That's where he sets himself apart.
I agree with you. I mean, he's got a high motor. Somebody's going to get a decent rotation player. The question is,
I think he fits in with who,
anybody. The only thing about him is that he does not have a polished offensive game, does not have a jump shot. He's the type of guy who's going to get his points garbage-wise. He's going to pick up offensive rebounds. He's a good finisher on the break. It's a question of, again, with the guys in the middle round, I think it is all dependent on where they actually end up.
He's a little bit like the Portland center that the Nets used to have. He doesn't have much of an offensive game, but he does so many other intangibles.
Reminds me a little of Sean Marion.
That's a pretty good comparison, actually.
All right, well, let's talk about our local teams now, shall we?
Sure.
The Knicks head into the offseason after a disappointing 32-50 season with no draft picks, while the Nets head in with an even worse 21-61, but they now have a first rounder at number 20 to go with their second rounder at number 55. We'll look at what they should focus on and also take a look at who will be the NBA's most sought-after free agent. Sean, where would the Nets' focus lie this offseason? Where should it lie this offseason?
Well, they made a trade. I mean, now I was happy for this because at least they're hosting the draft. At least they're going to get to participate
in the draft.
To some extent in the draft. I mean, just in terms for public relations, they had to do something like that. Technically, they should be going after the exact type of player that they gave away, someone who could give them NBA production. Thaddeus, 15 points a game, somewhere around there. That's the type of guy that they need, that they can't be getting rid of. Otherwise, they're just throwing up their white flag, it seems. And a lot of that goes back to, I did a closing a few years ago on their ownership and how there's a conflict of interest because the Mets The Nets owner is a Russian national, and more power to him, but he likes to focus his efforts on the Russian national teams. His efforts, I mean, his employees are doing their job the best they can, but he's not motivated to do his best, and I think the Nets right now are suffering from that. So, I mean, I just see a white flag being raised by the Nets, so they just have to go after the best that the best the GMs could find around the league, throw everything they had on the wall that sticks that they could get cheap, you know?
Yeah, for them, I agree with you, Sean. I think it's a question of they got to bring in as much quantity as they can, and let Sean Marks, the rookie GM, and Atkinson, the new rookie head coach, kind of sort it out and see who's going to stick. They have to find a brand new identity.
And what I mentioned about this year's draft being mediocre, they could get just as good a player at 5 as they could for 20. So
entirely
at least
possible.
They have that
yeah.
upside to look forward to.
Maybe able to trade with somebody.
Maybe.
Well, Steve, what should the Knicks focus on this offseason?
Well, I think they've accomplished a lot of what they needed to.
You think?
To get that yesterday, and I got to congratulate them. I never thought they would get Derrick Rose. This guy, let's hope he's healthy, because even if he plays 30 games, it'll be an improvement over what we've had at point guard. He is one of the elite players of the game. We all know that dating back to 2011, 2010. He was a phenomenal player. He actually was challenging LeBron James as the best player in the league at that time. I don't expect him to be quite as good as that, but I think between his scoring, his defense, his low post game, his IQ for the game, his ability to pass, and the fact that he and Carmelo Anthony already seem to have a good relationship, I think they're going to be a lot better team with those three, with Porzingis, Anthony, and Rose.
Well, the thing we talk about often with the Knicks is, can Melo play with another alpha dog type guy? And if you remember, when Carmelo was contemplating free agency, where was the first place he visited? Chicago.
Yes.
So you get the feeling those two guys are going to be able to make it work because Rose has no problem deferring. So it'll be interesting to see watch those guys play.
He likes his game a lot.
So I think they will mesh together pretty well.
Well, Jay, aside from Kevin Durant, who will be the most sought-after free agent on July 1st?
Kevin Durant's most likely to resign with OKC, even if it's just a 1 year to see what happens with Westbrook after his contract. So, LeBron has a player option, but, don't worry about him.
Yeah.
I think the guy who's going to get a lot of phone calls on July 1st is Memphis Grizzlies point guard Mike Conley. Good for 15.6 assists a game. He'll give you a couple of steals. He makes very good decisions with the ball. 4 assist to 1 turnover, assist to turnover ratio this season. Now, granted, most of the times in the NBA, if you're called a game manager at point guard, it's a negative, but Conley is the best definition of that. Smart, athletic player, knows how to make sure everyone's involved, get him the ball, can set an offense, quick passes, capture and expose defense, make good plays. Quality shooter from the arc, able to catch and shoot, has a really good quick release, good finisher at the rim, and any conversation about the league's best defensive point guards, you got to put Conley in that conversation. The negatives for him, he's not an alpha dog. He's not going to take over a ball game.
No.
He's not a dominant one-on-one scorer. He has had some foot injuries in the past, which have impacted him a little bit in the last 4 years. But here's the bottom line. A player who's definitely worth the max. He's probably not going to leave Memphis. There's been a great deal of noise about that, especially over the last 2 months. Memphis is certain he's re-signing, but you know what? You never say never in the NBA because it is a business. Because just remember, guys, there suddenly is an opening at point guard in Chicago.
Yes, there is.
That is true.
Among other places.
Yes.
That's a good point, though. Well, it was an NBA Finals filled with firsts. LeBron James led the Cavs to their first NBA title, defeating the Warriors in 7 games. In doing so, they became the first team to ever come back after being down 3-1 in an NBA Finals. And the Warriors' historic regular season ends in history-making failure. Jay, final thoughts on a history-making NBA Finals?
The Warriors have joined a very select club, but not in a good way. They are now the NBA equivalent, and I tweeted this out right as it happened on the show, on our Twitter feed. I said they are now the NBA equivalent of the 2007 Patriots and the 2001 Mariners and the 96 Red Wings, teams that set regular season records for wins and did not win a title. Guys, they lost 9 games in the regular season. They lost that many in the playoffs, going 15-9.
Right.
They lost consecutive games for the first time all season. 3 in a row for the first time in 2 years with Steve Kerr as their head coach. And at all the time when they're supposed to be cementing their place as the greatest team in NBA history. For the second straight final, Steph Curry comes in as the NBA MVP and delivers a less than MVP-like performance, while LeBron, I think, reminded everybody why he's the best player on the planet, led both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. First one to ever do that in NBA history. 27, 11, 11, triple-double in Game 7. First Game 7 triple-double since Worthy for the Lakers in '88 as they closed out for the Celtics for the title. I think what's going to be remembered, and Steve, back me up on this, LeBron just shut every hater up.
Yes, sir. He really did. I mean, and you said it perfectly. He answered every critic out there. And the one thing they used to say about LeBron is, well, he can't lead a team. They can't win a championship with him. He always needs somebody to help. Well, of course he does. Michael Jordan neneeded Pippen and Grant to help him. I mean, this guy had such a phenomenal series. The last 3 games, as you said, Jay, 2 40-point-plus games and a triple-double to end on the last game. And the 3 blocks in that game were unbelievable.
The one on Iguodala.
That was ridiculous.
Amazing.
That was insane. And the one on Curry was equally good. This guy wanted a championship badly. He wanted to shut all the critics up. He came back to Cleveland to get the championship. And you know what? You are the best player in the game, and you got it back. Congratulations, LeBron.
And Sean, how about the emergence of Kyrie Irving?
Wow, was he amazing?
I
or
was
what?
driving home when the finals were ending, and on Sirius Radio, I got to listen to the Cleveland radio feed, which was brilliant.
Wow.
And I also traveled to Cleveland to visit some family about a month or so ago. So I got to see this city embrace that team. Just a glimpse of it. Driving through that Cleveland area where you have all the hotels, the downtown area, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they play basketball and where the Indians
Quicken
play
Loans.
baseball, all in one area, and also the Browns.
Smart.
And I really felt the love that they had for this particular run, and how much this gritty American city that's been through a lot in terms of their manufacturing industry, recessions, then rising up again. The way that they embrace this team, and after they won, the way they're coming out in these parades, it's not a big city like New York, but they're having New York numbers come to these events.
I think they had 1.3 million or 1.2 million
Yeah.
people
And
come to the
like
parade.
That completely
Crazy.
shuts everything
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah,
equipped to deal with that type of volume, unlike a big place like New York City over here. And it is a genuine showing of love. Like if you think when LeBron was with Miami, there was that fan around that ran on the court and said, "LeBron, we love you," and gave him a hug. There is an absolute love for the kid from Akron who came and delivered them a championship.
Yeah.
And I've been hard on LeBron James.
Yes, you have.
You know, for various reasons, but I've also had fun with him. It hasn't been mean-spirited. No one could be happier for a story like this of a native from that area winning in this manner and bringing a ton of happiness for a city who couldn't deserve it more.
I can think of one guy who's happier. Has your husband come off cloud 9 yet?
He was in shock as a Cleveland fan, in shock.
That he was.
And I'll give you my 2 cents in my 3-minute warning. But that music means it's time for the 3-minute warning. Sean, lead us off.
I really love the 24-team format of the Euro and the fact that 4 third-place finishers move on. It allows nations you don't often see into the second most significant sports event in the world. And if you think that phrase is hyperbole, think about this. In Iceland's historic run to the round of 16, they're estimating that 8% of the total population went to France to support the team.
Wow.
Only in soccer, my friends.
Yeah.
Also at the top of my list of highlights is Ireland and their merry fans who call themselves the Green Army, fighting to earn their way in their second win ever against Italy into the elimination round. I wish those Russian hooligans would have came across the Green Army, because the Irish are up for a good battle at any time. Albania getting its first goal and major win in a tournament. Not moving on, but their effort against Romania was in no way diminished or less historic for a country that really needed a lift. Then there was Wales, a first-timer to the Euro, beating out England for group dominance. And Croatia with a monumental penalty block, then an added goal to stop Spain's winning streak in group play.
Wow.
Now, I often take the view that I could leave my love of sports behind quickly to concentrate on real-world problems like work and stuff like that. But for me, watching the Euro and the World Cup are the only 2 events that make me lose all ability to do that.
Wow. The fix may have been in, but not in Game 7. Tim Donaghy, former NBA referee, was essentially quoted as saying the NBA Finals were fixed and the league wanted a Game 7 finale. Well, I'm not in the habit of falling in line with thugs, cheaters, or losers, but I have to say maybe Donaghy was right after all. Remember Draymond Green's kick to LeBron James' groin? He was ousted for his transgression for Game 5. How about Steph Curry and Steve Kerr being fined $25,000 after 3 insidious, horrific calls forced Curry out of Game 6? But Game 7 put the fix to an end. LeBron's Cavs, with a heavy assist from Kyrie Irving, helped seal the Warriors' fate with precise offense and tough physical defense as well, like they hadn't seen before.
Yes, sir.
The fix may have been in before, but Cleveland snuffed out that score.
Yes, they did. From the Rocket to the Golden Jet, Stevie Y to Super Mario, Ovi to Sid the Kid. The history of the NHL is filled with great nicknames for its greatest players. The nicknames, for the most part, have described who the players were, but only one player, Wayne Gretzky notwithstanding, had a nickname that bespoke his place in hockey's pantheon. A Hall of Famer with a nickname befitting the idol of the player nicknamed the Great One. The player is legendary Gordie Howe, and his nickname is even more fitting now that he's passed, Mr. Hockey. Gordie Howe scored 801 NHL goals, second all-time to Gretzky. He played more games, 1,767, and more seasons, 26, than any player in NHL history. He also won 4 Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings. He retired for the first time at age 42 after 25 years with the Red Wings, only to come back 3 years later just to play with his sons in the WHA. He was a 23-time NHL All-Star who played his final one with Hartford at age 51 in a season where he scored 15 goals. On the ice, he was no one to mess with. Off the ice, he was as unselfish, graceful, and gracious as they came. When Gretzky broke Howe's all-time scoring record in 1989, Mr. Hockey commented that becoming friends with the Great One was one of the better things that happened to him in hockey. That, in a nutshell, tells you the type of person Howe was. Mr. Hockey passed away on June 10th at age 88. The Great One lost his idol, hockey lost an icon, and the world lost a great person. Gretzky put it best when he said, quote, "You, my friend, will be sorely missed."
The NBA Finals ended in spectacular fashion with a Game 7 for the ages. After all the blowouts in this series, it had us on the edge of our seats with anticipation. There were 20 lead changes and 11 ties. The Cavs did what 32 other teams couldn't. They became the first NBA team to come back from a 3-1 finals deficit and win. And they did it by upsetting the best regular season team in the history of the NBA. At one point, it seemed like Golden State couldn't miss a three-point shot, even from well beyond the arc. It looked so easy, but the Cavs kept plodding away and wouldn't give up. LeBron exhibited the basketball IQ he's always been known for. He focused on smothering defense and passing to allow his teammates to make key shots. LeBron was able to morph into whatever his team needed in each game. And he led both the Cavs and Warriors in points, assists, rebounds, blocks, and steals for the series. Not to detract from the 2 championships he won with my Miami Heat, but there was something different and special about this one. You could see it in his emotional reaction after the game.
Yes.
LeBron finally brought a championship back to his hometown and the long-suffering Cleveland fans who hadn't seen a professional sports title in 52 years.
Wow.
At long last, the city of Cleveland gets to taste victory, and LeBron has cemented his status as one of the all-time greats.
Indeed.
Yes.
For Jay Kaplan, Steve Ferguson, and Sean Roman, I'm Nisa Petrilli. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us. We'll see you on July 7th for another edition of On the Sports Lines. Remember, if you want to see this show again or catch up on any of the ones you might have missed, check us out at youtube.com/onthesportslines. And check out our blog at onthesportslines.blogspot.com. Good night, everyone.
Night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.